This episode of the Ryen Russillo podcast is brought to you by AT&T. I want to talk about guarantees and the lack of when it comes to windows in the sports world. I love what the Cavs did this year. They know their windows right now, and there's no guarantee that extends beyond this year. We think it could, but many teams have done so in the past. History tells us your window is shorter than you think. There are no guarantees. And then there's the AT&T guarantee. It means connectivity you can depend on, deals you want, and service you deserve, or AT&T will make it right. Visit att.com/guarantee to learn more. AT&T, connecting changes everything. Terms and conditions apply. Visit att.com/guarantee for details. It started as 30 teams in 30 minutes, but we're going to do 15 teams in about 15 minutes. The West, we run through all of the teams, just some thoughts and numbers, and enjoy. Adnan Virk, we try to keep him in check a little bit more than last time on this one, but we're going to talk Oscars, Best Picture, Four Nations, other stuff, travel, and we've got life advice, a really long one again for you today. 15 teams in 15 minutes. We may go over. Oklahoma City will go by seeding. Number 6 on offense this year, number 1 in defense. They're usually 3.5 to 4 points better than the number 2 team, Orlando. Last year, number 3 on offense, number 4 on defense, so the numbers holding up. Okay, giddy playoff numbers against Dallas, plus minus. He started the beginning of the series, then was benched. He was a -7, the only starter with a negative in Game 1. Game 2, he was a -20. Game 3, he was a -1. Game 4, he was a +6 in 12 minutes. Game 5, a -3 in 12 minutes. Game 6, +2 in 11 minutes. By the way, they also gave up 69 points in the second half to Dallas in Game 6 when they were eliminated. The reason I bring that up is that this team will not have those minutes. Somebody that the other team can completely ignore, and they try to solve that with some spacing, but the spacing wasn't good enough. Chet, 6 games back. Last night against Brooklyn, the best he has looked in his return, 22 and 17. The massive Brooklyn comeback in this one. The at-the-rim defensive numbers, if you want to look at field goal and then the differential based on expected field goal, Chet arguably with 250 minutes played as the qualifier here, arguably has the best stats in the entire NBA. So if you take it a step further, they're 47-11 now. Of the 11 losses, the worst loss of the season based on opponent is at San Antonio. They've had 2 games that are like, hey, that they got beat, which is funny enough that part of it would be the in-season tournament that doesn't technically count on any of this stuff. I mean, to think that you could be almost 60 games in the season and have one game that counts, be like, oh, that was a night we didn't really have it. That's ridiculous. So I can continue to talk about the third guy. Who's the third guy in the playoffs? What is Jalen Williams like in the playoffs? Maybe it's Chet. Maybe it's Dorton Caruso giving you spacing and incredible defense. Maybe it's Aaron Wiggins, who's turned into one of my favorite role players in the league. He's on fire in February, 46% from 3. There are going to be some options, but we may not even know what they are like fully formed because Chet has just come back. And like I said, it may be years before we see the best version of what Chet is because of the physical part of it, but he was terrific last night. The shooting, the rim protection numbers, they're already there right now. Weird stat for them. Rebounding rate last year was an issue, 28th in the NBA, 21st this year. So still not great. But again, pre-Chet, who knows? Their clutch defense, despite having this defensive profile, they're 25th in clutch D. So the point is, like, what does that mean? In the clutch, they choke defensively. I think sometimes those clutch numbers can be a little weird, especially when they played a league low 16 clutch games, which is 20 less than what Houston has played, most in the NBA 36. Number 2 seed Memphis, offense 5, defense 9. Last year, 30th on offense, defense 12th. Really, the headline for me on them is a bit like, okay, there's a lot you like. Do you take them serious as far as coming out of the West? The answer is probably not. I would put them below Denver, and we'll get to Denver here in a second. The start of the season for Memphis, and there's been some in and out rotational stuff that we've all been aware of. 8-7 to 38-20 overall record. So this is a team that's been playing at 30-13. The shooting numbers, well, they were 29th in the NBA in shooting last year as far as three-point shooting. They're 7th this year. And can we get some love for Santi Aldama? The advanced stuff, he's a completely different guy. And when you watch him, whether it's this offense, whether it's his confidence, all the little stuff that he does, I just think he's a really good player, man. But statistically, the profile tells you he's a completely different dude as well. We all know that I love Jaren Jackson. Ja, it's still not peak Ja. It's been 3 years since he's made over 31% of threes in a season. I still hold out hope that we can see some version of peak Ja, because that changes what you think their ceiling is as a team. And so I think it's just a point of pointing out what we're seeing now and the hope that it can come back at some point. They're also a team that may have to go small here in the playoffs. There's a lot of teams that I kind of have on will they go small with their best unit look, and how does that play out in the playoffs? Because if you look at their minute dispersal here, Edie's 7th at 20 minutes a game, and he's their only big that's at 20 minutes a game. So that's just something to think about. I like the depth, but the Edie part and some of the victory lap of like, hey, they drafted him. And my thing was like, okay, it's not like he's bad, but you might just be drafting a role player in the lottery and knowing that his ceiling is probably a little closer to the finished product because he's older and has played so much college basketball. It's like, okay, but he's big and he can do something. He's averaging 1.6 post-ups per game. Nobody likes to post in this league anymore anyway, but if you're drafting him and you're doing it 1.5 times the thing that he was better at than anybody else in college basketball, there are moments where I'm like, what was the point? Number 3, Denver. Number 2, offense. Number 16 on defense. Last year, number 5 on offense. Number 18 on defense. I do think it's Oklahoma City, Cleveland, and Boston as far as the first tier, and then a plus Denver, because there's still some Denver stuff that I'm worried about. And maybe I fall guilty or fall prey to guilty of the Mahomes of like, I can't pick against him because of what Jokic is and is at this point my MVP. The Nuggets are 4th on the title odds for FanDuel if you go to FanDuel Sportsbook as of today. Aaron Gordon, though, I think this is important because as Denver was kind of struggling standings-wise and Jokic was putting up these ridiculous numbers, Gordon has missed 23 of 58 games, and then he had games where he came back with a minutes restriction. So they went 14-9 without him. So they're at 24-11 with him. Murray's been really good for 3 months. So after not looking great again at the beginning of the season, whatever that was, and the injury stuff, it'd be great to see some more free throws. But if you look at his shooting splits this month, 55, 52, 88 splits. But it's 3 straight months of really good shooting from the outside. They're 8-1 in Murray games in February. The bench we knew would be an issue. They're 27th in points. Doesn't matter. Maybe not in the playoffs. New York's last in points from the bench, but when you watch them, you're like, okay, that makes sense. You know who's 5th in points off the bench? The Wizards. So points off the bench aren't necessarily like some disqualifier whenever you're trying to figure out if a team can win a title. And because Westbrook has been really needed and important for them to just walk out onto the court and think there's no one that's his equal, I think is actually like an important personality to have on this basketball team. And I also think it's the first time that I've seen Westbrook finally be like, okay, like I know I'm not the guy. And there are times where I think he's almost so in a hurry to get the ball back to Jokic, he actually screws it up. So there's another element of this that we saw with that LA game where they were brilliant against Denver defensively, where there's just certain things that other teams will probably ignore. So the playoff stuff for Westbrook, I'm going to look at differently. The Aaron Gordon stuff, even though his shooting numbers are really good, it's clear that it's part of a strategy for the other team to just kind of ignore him. I'm a little worried about where's the spacing? Like, where are those spacing lineups going to come from when you're running the 2-man game of Murray and Jokic on one side? Are you just going to have guys on the other side of the paint ignoring everybody else? And if you look at points, percentage of points from 3, Denver is last in the NBA on the percentage of their points from the 3-point line. But when they won the title, they were 20th. Lakers, look out. Offense, 10th. Defense, 13th. Last year, 15th on offense, 17th on defense. It's about the defense holding up because this team is on fire defensively. Their last 15 games, 12-3, number 1 defensive team in the NBA, which still seems like long-term. Like, is this who they're going to be? They're just going to be like one of the best teams on defense when they added Doncic to LeBron and to Reeves. Like, those are your closing 3 perimeter guys. So how is that going to hold up defensively? I don't know. Maybe LeBron steps up enough, has stepped up. Maybe Luka plays a little bit more pissed off in the playoffs. Reeves at least is in good position. So they were so good in that Denver game. I just can't believe that it's good. Like, I can't believe the profile is this good. The best part about this question of like what is possible for the Lakers this year is that the Luka trade felt like a franchise reset where you're kind of punting on 25. But if they keep up this defensive run that they're on, which again, it feels a little impossible. But I mean, what's wrong with being the sixth best defense in the NBA since the trade deadline? The fact that we were talking about him as a dark horse title contender, I think, is a compliment in itself. There's also some other stuff worth looking at. 66 minutes per game in February of Finney Smith, Vincent Vando, and Jackson Hayes, who I'm just never going to like. Catch the lobs and his defensive plus-minus stuff because he's just so active, and he's a huge necessity based on their lack of depth at the big positions for this team. But this went from, Luka, kind of punting on 25 and see what happens. And I'm sure they didn't say internally, hey, we're punting on 25, but now it feels even more real. And Luka's just going to get better and better because these last two games, he's starting to look like Luka again. Houston. Offense, 14th. Defense, 4th. Last year, 20th on offense, 10th on defense. The defense has been slipping a bit here. So if you go last 15 games, they're 13th on D. Van Vliet's only played one game in February. I love them. It's one of my favorite teams to watch. Everybody already knows that. But this is kind of a weird way when I watch them. Like one of the things I'll think about. We talk about the two timeline thing. We just had Anthony Slater point that out with Golden State. Other teams have tried to do it in the past. I'm thinking about doing a two timeline deep dive on the rebuilding. Not to say that it works or completely write it off and say that it never works, but Houston's in a just interesting spot in that it's supposed to be kind of the Jalen Green, Alpi Şengün deal, but it might be about Amen Thompson, who's become a league pass favorite. How about the shooting splits for him? Granted, he's only taken 1.5 threes per game, but he's 52 from the floor, 36% from three. Doesn't look good, but it's just so much better because he's more confident all the time. He's getting into this jump shot more and more. So they have a bunch of players that are kind of the same age, but it may be like they have to pick a few of them and go, okay, these are the guys. And Jalen Green's still going to be the closer for them. Offensively at times, we know the clutch offensive numbers are not very good, but they have a really good clutch record. I wouldn't give up on Jabari. I think since he's come back, he's actually looked a little bit better with the basketball. There's some defensive rim stuff with them where I think it's not good, but then maybe it's because of the help and all of their athletes, because those numbers are actually pretty good that aren't showing up in the overall defensive numbers. The one thing that I was looking at here was, like, when it comes down to it in a playoff spot, is there something that you're imagining right now as you've watched all these Rockets games? You're like, this is what it's going to look like when they're closing out a tight playoff game that's only a couple points. Because there is a lot of ball stopping with this team. They're last in average seconds per touch in the NBA. And that actually makes sense, whether it's Jalen probing or Van Vliet trying to find that angle. But Amen is going to be taking more and more of those possessions, even though Şengün leads the Rockets in fourth quarter scoring at just over 5 points per game, which is actually only 48th in the NBA. So is that a team that is actually better having somebody be a more defined go-to guy? Is the depth hurt? Does the depth that we love so much actually hurt them a little bit into whose turn it is at the end of a close game and then ultimately a playoff game? All right, Clippers. This is a great story, and another one that I kind of can't believe. Offense 21st, defense 3rd. That probably surprises some people. Last year, offense 4th, defense 16th. But they're getting torched here in February. Opponents are shooting 41% on threes in this month. The bigger story of the year, at least, is the preseason over-under. They were 35.5 wins. They're 32-26. They're on pace for about 45 wins. They've done a great job. Lawrence Frank and the front office and Ty Lue, they do a really good job. They identified better needs defensively for some of their perimeter matchups, certainly to try to protect Harden there a little bit as well. Zoo is one of the most underrated guys in the league. They've done this without Kawhi for 41 games. I think he's looked pretty good in the games where he's played 30-plus minutes. They're 4-6 in their last 10, but Norm hasn't played since February 13th. So I'm impressed with what they've done. They've exceeded my expectations. They continue to bring in all these players who I cannot stand. And if Ben Simmons had an aggressive N1 the other night, congrats to him. But I'm just not going to pick them against anybody because I just think they're going to be a bad playoff bet because of Kawhi's health and Harden's track record. Something with Harden that I've noticed this year too. Tight spots, fourth quarters, turnovers, it's a problem. If you look at the top 50 players in usage in the fourth quarter, only Ja is worse on the turnover ratio. Jokic fans, don't look at his. Minneapolis, also known as Minnesota. All right. I wasn't trying to be clever there. I have it written down as Minnesota. All right. This is what we got. An offense that's 12th, a defense that's 6th. Last year, an offense that was 17th, a defense that was 1st. Whatever the defensive issues were very, very early in the season, they're just not an issue anymore. You could point to the second lowest contested 3 points per game, but Orlando's last. So that's two teams that we really like their defenses overall. Those defensive numbers are really good. So that number doesn't really show up as being that much of a detriment to the overall stuff. The biggest thing overall is what's Finch going to do with Randall, Conley, and Rudy in a playoff series. Rudy's still the best bet out of that group. Randall might become a 20-minute-a-night guy because I think everybody has to come to the realization of like whatever his numbers are and his skill and his shooting and his passing and some of the rebounding and all that kind of stuff. It's just he's sort of out there on his own. He's going to get his numbers, but what about the other stuff? Are you going to get back on defense consistently all night long? Conley doesn't really even shoot anymore. And the comeback against Oklahoma City, I think he was under 15 minutes in that game. And defensively, he's going to be a target all of the time. So with McDaniels and Ant and Alexander Walker and Shannon and Clark, like I think they're going to be going defensive numbers there only because you would think Conley is better offensively to balance out some of this stuff, but it's just not much of a threat. And certainly a target on defense. And I feel like there have been games where Finch has decided they're better without Rudy out there. So that'll be a matchup-specific thing. McDaniels, who I haven't always loved on offense, which I think is completely fair, just a complete breakout February here. He's been lighting it up scoring-wise without actually shooting it that well from three, which is actually kind of more impressive. Ant's points per possession on ISO is too low, but I still love him. Golden State, offense 16, defense 8. Last year, 9th on offense, 15th on defense. So this team has kind of flipped their profile here. This is AB, right? Everything is AB after Butler. 6-1 since the trade. In the 6 wins, beating teams by an average of 18 points. Since the deadline, they're 5th on offense, 2nd in defense. Steph is at 27 a game on 49 and 38% splits with Butler. Podziemski's plus 19, a team best plus 19 net rating since Butler. So, yeah, small sample. And will they survive small? Because the top 6 minutes are all smaller players, and their most minutes per game for a big right now is Quentin Post at 15 minutes a game. So it actually feels a little Lakerish, like, wow, this is awesome. But is there enough here? I need to see more. But I'm hoping at least to see Steph have some kind of playoff appearance just because it's more fun with Steph. Dallas. This is a bummer. 8th on offense, 14th on defense. Last year, they were 8th on offense and 18th on defense. But remember, after the trade deadline, they were a much better team. So some of their overall numbers are kind of just pointless. I like this group a lot. I thought they were better this year with Luka than what they were last year. The Grimes trade doesn't get talked about a lot, though. I would have put them on the Denver line. So if it's Oklahoma City with Cleveland and Boston, and then that plus group, Denver, healthy Dallas with Luka, everybody coming back, the improvements off of last year, better spacing options. I would have put this team on the Denver line. I wouldn't have cared about the record at all. But this is a team that has to play small out of necessity, not preference. Healthy AD, I'd probably put him 3rd behind Oklahoma City and Denver because Kyrie has been so good this year. Clay's been really good. The Najee Marshall fluke 3-point shooting season last year in New Orleans is probably a fluke. Hardy's out of the rotation. Christie is good, but I thought he got hunted a lot in the last Lakers game, quite a bit, even though we look at him as a defensive guy before he's an offensive guy. Really, I think it was just maybe a body match. Maybe sometimes I wonder if teams don't hunt Kyrie because they're like, man, that guy just gets it. All right. So look, there's really not much to talk about with this team because there's not any statistical thing because Anthony Davis didn't even play the full game, but I still have some hope that they could cause some noise with AD back in it. But you'd have to have Clay still playing like this. You'd have to kind of figure out what your closing group and what you're willing to give up offensively or defensively and how much AD would hold up for a lot of that stuff. 19th toughest remaining strength of schedule, so maybe some ground to make up there, but the AD thing, like, look, there's just not a lot that I'm going to have that's all that insightful that you don't already know on this. I would add this: if the Lakers now make some kind of run, a trade that we already know is historically inexplicable, it's going to be so much worse for you Mavs fans. Like, imagine Luka in the Western Conference Finals. Okay, Sacramento. Number 7 on offense, number 19 on defense, 13 on offense, 14 on defense. So when they made their move into this season, I've always felt like, hey, they're replacing Harrison Barnes and DeMar DeRozan. DeRozan's just still impossible to stop in some of his offensive pull-up stuff. They're going to raise their offensive ceiling, raise their offensive floor, and just hope they can outscore a bunch of teams. Look, they were stuck on the Fox thing, so they're going to be worse. Levine's got his 23 a game. Cool. It's nice to see Keegan put up 2 great months of shooting after kind of a rough start there. And looking at the rest of this, Sabonis' stuff, the box scores, when you look at them, if you didn't watch the game, you look the next day and you look twice, that they're so impressive. But there's usually going to be some kind of matchup that he's going to get exposed against. There's usually just going to be something there. And DeMar's had an awesome February. But I think the most telling thing for Sacramento, and it backs it up when you watch them play, if you go through the 10 teams in the play-in, and obviously for the playoffs, they're 10-18 against teams 500 or better, which is the worst of any of those 10 teams. That's kind of what I expect. Phoenix, it's bad. All right, overall numbers aren't as bad. Yeah, 11th on offense, 27th on defense. Last year, they were 10th on offense, 13th on defense, even with all the injuries. Their 27th on D number, well, they were last in the NBA in February. They've gone 2-9, so last in the NBA in February defensively. Last year, we kept saying, if all three guys. I was guilty of it. The matchup with Minnesota, look how it played out in the regular season. What I don't think I realized at the time was that they were killed in that Minnesota series. All right. And they've just been weakened at Bernie's deep. Like, that's what this whole season's been. And I've been dumb enough at times this season to be one of the guys at the party thinking Bernie's still alive. It gets, I don't know how it all just turns around now with this team. I can't believe they're this bad. February, look at the rebounding numbers. They're 25th. They're 29th in offensive rebounding, because they start to look at things like what are older scorers more likely to do, like get to the free throw line less, get to the rebound numbers that you'd want a little bit less. They're getting 78 points per game combined from the 3 guys in February. And that's kind of the point, is those guys get their buckets because there are nights where they were just elite shot makers and the ball's going to go in. But there's just a lot of that, and then not as much that you need the rest from the rest of the game, not just the rest of the group. The full complement of the game that you need to be taken seriously in the West, and I don't do it anymore with them, and I cannot wait for Kevin Durant's offseason. Portland, one of my favorite teams late here. Little Portland push. Offense, number 24. Defense, number 23. Last year, offense, number 28. Defense, number 23. But defensively, they were 9th in the NBA in January. They're 8th in February. That's been a big part of this turnaround. So they're a rebuilding team, but I think the most concerning thing is all the cracks that you get at it. Do you have a potential star on this team? It's certainly not DeAndre Ayton, who they've gone 9-10 without. Think about their record, that they're basically a 500 team with Ayton out of it. So even with his stats at the end of last year and his talent that we certainly know, not a winning basketball player, it's probably a build around Sharp thing. I think he's probably your best bet, and he does have those moments. I mean, he had a dunk last night that was ridiculous. I think Denny's a nice player. Simons is a nice player. Kamara's a nice player as well. I would get Grant out of there. And Scoot is much better, I think, than he was last year, but certainly not where I'd hope he'd be at the end of year 2. This is kind of my favorite Cooper Flagg team, but with this winning streak, not winning streak, but this team that's just been so good now defensively, and some of the Chauncey minutes that, who he's rewarding with minutes here, because of how hard they've played on defense, they're 10th in lottery odds. So maybe they're my second favorite Cooper Flagg thing, because that's not even close to happening. San Antonio, offense number 17, defense number 17. San Antonio, you know what you're getting. So Wemby's the headline. They're minus 7.8 points, I believe. I don't have last night's numbers in there, but they're 7-8 points worse with Wemby not in the lineup. But at least this year, they just look so much more organized, even with a diminished version of Chris Paul, right? I'm also comparing this year's level of organization to the lack of organization last year. I know people argued the Sohan point guard thing of like giving him the opportunity to grow. And you know what he also did? You wasted a million possessions having a guy who didn't know how to play point guard try to set up these other dudes. So I'll never understand that one. But they tried it, didn't work. They were also tanking, sort of, not tanking, whatever. But there have been just times this year, at least with the Wemby lineups, where you're like, hey, this team actually looks like way more organized. Here's the first action. Here's the second action. This is what we're going to do here. They don't shoot it well, right? There's just not enough shooters in these lineups. I think the best part is that Castle looks like a real win, and that the Fox acquisition reminds me a lot of the market for Donovan Mitchell, where even as great as Mitchell had been statistically and his scoring ability and some of those massive playoff games were just huge output, people around the league be like, he's really good, but he's not this guy. And I think the Fox conversation could be a little similar. It's like, oh, do you want to pay that guy? Well, waiting around for perfect, sometimes you're going to be waiting forever. So I feel like both those acquisitions, and it's easy to say that after the fact now with Cleveland, what Mitchell's been able to do. But I think it's one of those deals where it's like, hey, we might not be able to do better than De'Aaron Fox right now. So if he's available and you're not giving up a ton of assets, like it's kind of a no-brainer. So they'll go back into the lottery with their pick, which right now it's 9th. Also, there's a bit of a Kendall Johnson thing where I was probably lying to myself for a little bit because he looked in better shape and maybe made some shots the first 2 months of the season, but that's fallen off. And then we know Vassell's going to take less shots now. But on the lottery part of this, don't forget their pick, which sits 9th based on records, and Atlanta's unprotected pick from the DeJounte Murray trade. That pick is unprotected for 25. Two more teams. New Orleans, 26th on offense, 28th on defense. Last year, 11th on offense, number 6 on defense. These guys balled last year. Then Zion got hurt at the worst possible time. All right, so here's what we already know. This team is fucking haunted. Zion's played, he's missed 37 games. Ingram played only in 18 before he was traded. DeJounte tore his Achilles right when they had gotten him back. Herb Jones has missed 38 games. People don't even remember. People forget Herb Jones missed 38 games. CJ's missed 14. Trey Murphy's missed 16. So I feel for this front office, I've said it numerous times, it feels like every year they do their job in the draft. They do it as well as anybody. Yves Missi, loving little Yves Missi. But, their guys don't play. So there's two positives of the last month or so. And Trey Murphy's been more than a positive than just a month. But he's gone 40, 37, and 39% from three in the last 3 months. He's 23, 6, and 6 on 40% three-point shooting on 8 attempts per game here in February. He's a top 25 scorer in the league. Trey Murphy is so good. I enjoy him so much. He is so good that I sit at home and I'll wonder sometimes, like, could he be a guy you run your offense through on a good team? Certainly bad team. You could do it because bad teams have to have good players, or bad teams have to have leading scorer as the rule. Remember? Yeah, I'm talking about like a good team. Not a champion. Like I allow myself some Trey Murphy fantasies phrasing. Zion, since he's been back, he's been good. He looks great. He's played really hard. He looks like he's pissed off. The Dallas game, yes, I know they lost. He was pissed off. He had a monster night, I think it was against Sacramento. The best outcome here is that his market rekindles a bit because of recency bias from other teams watching this. I would not, if I were the Pelicans, going to next season with Zion. You just can't do it. Can't do it again. But it reminds me a bit of Anthony Davis. And that Anthony Davis, when it was bad and he was hurt all the time here in Los Angeles, people were kind of speculating like, man, do you flip him? Like, what could you get for him? Now, I don't think you could flip Zion for Luka anytime soon. But if there's some way to salvage the value and you feel like his market has been resuscitated somewhat this summer, then I would jump on that opportunity. Reset it around Trey and Herb Jones and whatever else you want to do. And then maybe New Orleans is my Cooper Flag favorite. But the problem is if Zion stayed, though, they could talk Duke. I'm kidding. All right, Utah. They're not good, and they have a lot of guys that think they're better than they are. This is a collection of dudes that hate passing at certain times. Larry Markkinen, unfortunately, now is on a bit of a stretch here where you're like, where's the real guy? Is it the guy that took forever, the guy that had these peak years? Is it because other guys don't want to get to him? Is it that we're never going to see that again? That's probably a big part of, he already got the contract, and they did the contract a certain way where he's going to be traded anyway. But, he's going to have to be better if he actually can be the lead guy for not one of the best teams, but somewhat of a competitive team. Not only are they just atrocious on defense, they're 19th on offense, 30th on defense. Last year they were 30th on defense, so that's a back-to-back run of this. But the points off turnovers that they force, they're last. The opponent's points on turnovers that they give up, they're last. It can be a really reckless crew at times, but they have a great structure between ownership, front office, and my favorite NBA head coach, Will Hardy. So there's some pieces in place. They just need one of these players to kind of pop value-wise. They have the assets. Unfortunately, they're not a destination. I'd rather live in Salt Lake than a lot of NBA cities, but I'm also old. There's not much to add to this other than playing hard cannot solve bad shot selection. 15 teams in just over 15 minutes. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you miss the first few minutes of the game or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. I got a little two-legger for you. We've talked about Zion and his tenacity. Who's defending him on the Phoenix Suns, who don't play defense anymore right now? So Zion to score 25 or more points. And let's take the Pels. Little Pels action. +8 in the Valley of the Sun, paying out at +194. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/Ryen, R-Y-E-N, to join today. That's FanDuel.com/Ryen, R-Y-E-N, for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 and older and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in D.C. First online real money wager, only $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. People wanted him back. Ceruti wanted him back. Maybe even more than I wanted him back. Adnan Virk joins us. The Resume, MLB Network, NHL Network, host of Amazon Prime Monday Night Hockey. I am so happy for you, man, having another outlet, and host of NHL Unscripted with Virk and Demers.
Yes, Jason Demers, yeah.
Demers. See, I thought it was going to be, so he's,
no, but
I thought it was going to be a little Quebec.
No, you're absolutely right, Ryan. So Jacques Demers, of course, was the great coach. So it should be
Jason Demers. Great, underrated in my book.
But as always, I listen to how someone pronounces her name, and I noticed he says Demers. So I asked him, I go, the French Canadian would be Demers, but you're Americanizing that for our audience. So it is, you're right. It should be pronounced Demers. He's going with Demers. But let's get into this. Love the fact, and I sat through a ridiculous amount of pre-bowl coverage with the Super Bowl of my beloved Philadelphia Eagles. Amazing job by you, the post-game recap, especially explaining how Kelsey didn't block Sweat when they were down 10-0. You're the only guy that mentioned that. And how good was Trent Dilfer explaining the cover 4? Like, I've been raving about Vic Fangio, and everyone just knows they're bringing pressure to the front four. But the way Trent explained on your podcast, all the Eagles fans who haven't listened, listen to TD with Ryan explaining how all those eyeballs are looking at the quarterback. Mahomes likes to step up and then step out. Can't do that because the coverage is amazing. And every day I've got a problem. I'm buying more and more. As you can see here, I know we're on video, Trudy said. So I've got my Super Bowl sweatshirt here. I've got a Cooper DeJean jersey, dude. It is so sweet. When you see it, you're like, bro, that's a pretty sick jersey.
That's exactly what I'm going to say.
Going with a rookie DB who pulls off a pick 6 against Mahomes. It was the signature moment of the Super Bowl. It was so awesome. So kudos to you and Trent Dilfer. Let's get into Sphere. I think this is at least a year ago. You would text me and go, dude, Aronofsky, Sphere. I'm like, yeah, at some point, I'd love to see it. So the Amazon Prime game has been awesome, and thank you for the kind words. For those who don't know, I fly in Sunday to a Canadian city, going back to my hometown of Toronto this weekend. I was just in Winnipeg, not as great. Montreal is obviously a great city, which you know, Vancouver, etc.
Rank them quick. Winnipeg,
Toronto. Yeah, Toronto.
Yellowknife, Toronto.
I'll say this. As a Canadian who's now lived in America 15 years, I'm really patriotic, but I got to be honest, man, there's like 4 great Canadian cities. This is going to offend all our Canadian listeners. It's Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Quebec City, maybe Calgary. Whereas in America, you've got like 50 great cities.
So Edmonton's out.
Oh, dude, I had never been to Edmonton, and you were one of the few.
I'm going.
When? You're not going to Edmonton. What is
that?
Yeah,
I am.
Jesus. You're one of the few people that pays attention. Remember the time we were doing, I was filling in for Van Pelt with Russillo. It was after the Leafs gagged and lost against the Bruins. It was one of the funniest things. Each person that came on would say,
no, I remember that. It was a Tuesday.
Yeah. And I go, hey, Virk, sorry about your Leafs. And Ryan's like, from the first day I met this guy, he told me he was a Flyers fan and an Eagles guy. Like, he's been very clear about that. People are just typecasting because he's Canadian and he loves the Leafs. Andy Katz is in the middle of his March Madness. Sorry about the Leafs, by the way. The point is, as a kid, I loved the Flyers. Those who don't know, because my brother was an Oilers fan. They had Gretzky, Messier, Curry, et cetera. Being a front runner, he cheered for them. I cheered for Philly because the Oilers played the Flyers, 85 and 87 Cup final. I go to Edmonton, Ryan, for the first time, December 16th. Oilers-Panthers, Cup final rematch. So imagine someone like you, if there was something as a kid, you're like, oh my God, I cannot wait to go see this. And you can trump your brother. I'm telling my brother, hey, I'm going to see the Oilers game before you. Bro, the best thing they say about Edmonton is that you don't have to leave the hotel to go to the arena. Think of that endorsement. They go, yeah, you can just literally go indoors. There's a couple tunnels. I'm like, tunnels? They go, yeah, walkways. You go right to the arena. The arena is awesome. I recommend the game. But outside of that, Edmonton is not a place you should visit. I'm stunned you're going. Go to Calgary and go to Banff. You'll love that.
I do great in Edmonton. I do great in Edmonton.
Please don't go to Winnipeg then. How about that? If you want to go to Edmonton, fine. I'll give you that. Don't go to Winnipeg.
I did go to Vancouver. No, I didn't. No, yes, I did. Oh my God, I just forgot that. Yeah, I finally made it to
like
Vancouver.
Seattle, so you couldn't remember.
Yeah, it's beautiful in the backdrop and the setting, and then like second Vancouver behind it, which I don't think is technically what it says on the map.
A lot of drugs, a lot of seedy underbelly of Vancouver.
I was good with it after a couple days.
Yes.
All right. And then I just worked my way north. I went up to Squamish, then I went up to Whistler, and then I went like another few towns north of that. And I was kind of like, how far are you going to go, dude? And then I was like, you know what was sick? Whistler. I'm just going to go back to Whistler. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Banff,
Banff, you haven't been yet? Okay. Because Banff, I went to Calgary and we had a Flames game November 4th. And I landed there. I don't know if you're like me. I asked the customs lady, I'm like, how far is Banff? She goes, hour and a half. She goes, but I go, what? And the Eagles were playing that day, whatever. It was like a 4:25, Eagles Cowboys. And I was like, well, I'm going to go to Banff. Literally, I just want to see it and then come back. She goes, you need at least 3 days there, sir. I go, hang on a second. If somebody flew into Toronto and goes, I have an hour to go see the CN Tower. I'm like, yeah, go see it. You have an hour, see it, you're good. So I get a rental car, $75, drove there. Russillo, it will blow your mind. I'm telling you, I was there for 2 hours. Just in
when were you there though?
I was there early November. And they told me
I think,
day. Yeah.
I think the problem with it is that it's such an Instagram destination now that if you go July, August,
yeah,
you know, like who wants to go to like you seriously want to go to Positano late July, early August now?
It is true. The weather is everything. Like everyone's like, oh my God.
It's not the weather. It's just there are certain destinations. Like, and I've gone to plenty of the Instagram destinations over my lifetime.
Yeah.
And you show up and like you're walking through Tulum going, there's 100 fucking people waiting in line to get their picture taken in front of the stupid thing. and in Tulum, like you're this close to getting hit by a car every 5 minutes. You're like, well, this looks like a good idea. Although I did do the outdoor gym. Shout out to those guys.
I love the Russillo solo destinations. There's a buddy of mine, Jason Robbins, always listens. He goes, can you find out the numbers? I go, excuse me? He's like, I want to know how those do. And I go, so I texted Shruti one time. I go, how do those do? And he goes, I don't know. I think Ryan's NBA, playoff stuff does better, but there are people who are huge fans of the Ryen Russillo travelogue, including, I believe, Diana Rossini. Like she can't get enough of it. It's like you'll go like 220 into like explaining Cypress in the gym and playing 3-on-3 and all those things.
Yeah, I'm very thankful that people like them that much. Do you want to start the podcast?
So I was going to say, let's go back to Sphere because this is my point. So,
back to Sphere.
Every week I'm traveling somewhere cold. So I said to my wife and kids, can we please go somewhere warm during this Four Nations break? And I was pushing hard, Miami or Puerto Rico, but they're like more West Coast people. Regardless, Vegas and SoCal was the option. My wife has family in Southern California. So in Vegas, I go, we got to do Sphere. I'm like, what? I go, Russillo said it's awesome. They go, what is it? I go, we got to do Sphere. Are you kidding? I know U2's not playing, but the NHL draft is here. And Russillo told me it's awesome. And I tell my wife, I go, Aronofsky, come on, the wrestler. Like, and she's like, yeah. $94 a ticket, plus I think a $16 charge. And again, for those who are unaware, my kids are 16, 13, 8, and 6. So I go, Aronofsky, they have no idea who the hell I'm talking about. I went, huh? So I got to tell you, man, I thought it was awesome. Like, it is an incredible experience. And you didn't go into detail. All you told me was, bro, Sphere, Aronofsky. I'm like, yeah, I'm in. It's 52 minutes, planet Earth documentary, close-up of a trunk from an elephant. But afterwards, we walk in. My wife goes, "Are you joking? We just paid $600. Like, we got to see a Cirque du Soleil show." And I go, she goes, "That's a glorified National Geographic video." I said, "But we're in Sphere. It's like a planetarium atmosphere. This is the biggest screen ever." I mean, I'm sorry you didn't get to see Britney Spears here, but I still think it's an amazing experience. So can you please back me up? Sphere kicks ass. Is it
Sphere is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
It is worth just experiencing anything in there. I've been lucky enough to go a couple times now, and like even the first time I was there for U2, and granted, when I was a kid, I loved them. I was certainly indifferent to, do I want to go see U2 now? And I think I might have even said no. And the person that invited me was like, "Are you seriously turning down this U2 lineup?" And I was already in Vegas. I mean, it could not have been easier. And the guy's like, "We have a suite in Sphere for U2, and you're saying no?" And I went, "You know what? That's a bad no." I go, I'm gonna turn it around. And it was so incredible. So look, again, anybody, if you have the chance and you're in Vegas to do any of those things. But I think it's kind of funny that your wife, like, you tried to kind of use me as an influence on this whole thing for your family to spend that much money on this experience. But I know you well enough that it was just all, you were in at Aronofsky. He could have done a fucking cartoon. Right.
And that's why the sell on them wasn't working. I go, like, Aronofsky, like the rest of them, like, huh? And I'm like, no, but like, it's supposed to be incredible. It's going to blow your mind. But you're right. I'm already in. He could just be doing like anime. I'm like, I'm in.
Right. Did you not say The Whale on purpose?
No, but you did. You hated it. You and I disagreed on that. I liked it. You hated it. You thought it was like an A24 searching for an Oscar. Speaking of the Oscars.
I do think I was at a fancy person dinner not that long ago. There was an Oscar award winner at the dinner. Another guy who
I was going to say Hilary Swank was my guess, but go ahead.
Incredible run on HBO. One of the heartthrobs of American cinema of the last 20 years. So it was a big boy dinner.
McConaughey. Okay.
It wasn't McConaughey. Oh. And so somebody had said something at the table that to this day, I just love. And however they told the story, it's certainly better than what I'll do right now. But, over the course of a few drinks, maybe some small plates, and the guy was like, "Yeah." So he goes, "And then we're at the screening, and on the screen pops up A24. Yeah. And then he name drops and turns to me and goes, 'This is going to be good.'" Which was like the best. It's a compliment to A24 because A24 is doing movies that I'm afraid have been lost. So like, I love A24. I'm as guilty as everybody else of when they come out with something. I'm like, all right, I'm going to give them a chance. But that joke is also the perfect joke of kind of where we're at right now with any A24 product. So my biggest thing with The Whale was, I don't think I'd been in the theater in a really long time. Right. It was the COVID stretch because of Aronofsky, because of the buildup. I also think the trailer was really good at kind of getting you in, but without a trailer, I don't even like looking at trailers. With Aronofsky and the whole thing, I would have done it. And my hopes for it were so high that I was a little frustrated. And I think endings are the hardest thing to do ever. So there's so many great movies and great experiences throughout the movie and characters that I'll care about. But even if the ending, like, it's just hard to have that ending where you go, holy shit, like that really delivered. I mean, think about it. Even all the movies that you love, there's just not a lot of Kaiser Sose moments. Maybe we don't want Kaiser Sose moments anymore.
Yeah. We definitely don't want Kevin Spacey specifically after his behavior.
How about that guy trying to just tweet through it?
Well, I love
That was unbelievable. I was like, wait, he's going at somebody? I'm like, all right, all right. Anyway, go ahead.
I was just going to say on A24, for those wondering why it's such a great production company, Ryan and I grew up when that great 90s independent movement, movies like Fargo and Sling Blade that we loved. And now, as you and I know, it's all just Marvel movies or movies being made for $1 million. So A24, for those who don't know, they're like the one independent film studio. They do Everything Everywhere All at Once, Uncut Gems, Midsommar, Moonlight. So that's why your buddy was like, hey, A24. It's synonymous with a certain pedigree. But I hear you on the whale maybe being a mixed bag. But I do want to talk about The Brutalist because I love Guy Pearce.
Let's go.
Yeah, I love Guy. So The Brutalist is one, and I'm with you. I rarely watch trailers now. I used to love watching trailers, and I go, all I hear is Brutalist, Oscar contender. I'm in. I don't need to see the trailer. Killers of the Flower Moon, I'm already going to watch it. Why would I watch a trailer? I'm going to see the movie. The trailer's just to entice you further. To The Brutalist, I go into Ryan, and I go, oh my God. It's so funny. The majority of people are not like us. They go, oh, it's 3.5 hours? Ugh. When's it streaming? You and I go, no, I'm clearing the schedule. I hope it's 4 hours. There's an intermission. Let's go. I'm locking in the phones.
I don't ever say I hope it's 4 hours, but yeah, I get your point.
but you get excited for a movie that's an event, right? You're
yes.
You're not bemoaning the fact that it's like,
I think Fennessy is like one of the best voices at our company. I love Sean Fennessy. And when he drops the stop what you're doing this year and go see The Brutalist, that's all I need to know.
Yeah. He's so passionate, and I love listening to him, and obviously when you pop up on the rewatchables as well. By the way, hilarious. I don't think it's worked yet, but the new segment they had, I listened to the mailbag rewatchables, and one of them was, well, just call Russillo randomly. So I don't know what part I was listening. They called, you didn't answer. Have you answered one of those where you did? Don't tell me which one. I'll go back and listen. But
I've not. I've yet to. Yeah. I changed up my phone setting. I'm missing every single phone call now. Everything is, and everyone is sent to do not disturb. I'm not getting any calls. And so I think 2 of the 3 times, I'm really upset I missed the Blues Brothers. I had just missed it. And then I texted and said, hey, did you call the bill? And he goes, yeah, we're doing the rewatchables gag. And I went, oh, what movie? He's like, Blues Brothers. I was like, all right, I'm ready to go. He goes, it's done. We're done. So I was like, all right, fine. No problem.
But by the way, phone etiquette, for those who want to know listen about Ryan, and I don't know if you've changed this habit. I always found it to be a really curiosity about you, but I liked it. You never saved anyone's number. You would just have the number, and through text, would able to discern who it was. Because I said, I don't understand. So if I text you, it just comes up as an 860. You're like, yeah, but I know it's you. I'm like, what do you mean you know it's me? I'm like, because you're texting me about something related to the show. You're filling in, Eagles, Flyers, etc. You wouldn't actually save numbers. Is that true? You wouldn't put a name to the number.
I'll save a few, but there's a lot I don't. But I just feel like no one ever remembers anybody's phone numbers. So now I've memorized so many of them that in case of emergency, I have contacts worldwide.
It's a great skill. The only one saved: Stanford Steve, Ceruti, SVP. It's about it. Brutalist. 3.5 hours. Brady Corbet, who is a former actor turned director, and all I heard, Ryan, was they go, "It's kind of like There Will Be Blood." I go, "Well, don't. That's like it's kind of like."
He's a young dude. I was researching him this week, man. What a run! What a project. Go ahead, keep going.
No, but to your point, if someone says it's kind of like There Will Be Blood, that's like saying, well, it's kind of like Citizen Kane. Well, Jesus, that's a high bar for putting for it. There Will Be Blood's one of the best movies of the last 25 years. I hope it's kind of like There Will Be Blood. What I loved about it was it charts the rise and fall of a regular guy escaping the Holocaust, immigrant played by Adrian Brody. He gives another excellent performance, although I'll say this. I'm kind of cheering for Chalamet because Brody is on the verge of winning a second Best Actor Oscar, which would make him one of the worst Best Actor Oscar winners ever 2 times. To this end, Pacino...
Why the worst?
Because his resume, if you look at the career filmography, he doesn't have a lot of hits. He was the star in King Kong. He's in a bunch of Wes Anderson movies. Look it up. If I told you Al Pacino, you know how much I love Pacino. He has 1 Best Actor Oscar win for Scent of a Woman. Adrian Brody's going to have 2 Best Actor Oscar wins for The Pianist and The Brutalist, playing, if I may say, rather similar characters. Both guys are Holocaust survivors. Both have been beaten up by life, and both of them are straining for credulity. It doesn't mean he doesn't give a great performance. And by the way, I think he's a really good actor. I've listened to him on podcasts. I think he's a very engaging guy. Hey, who doesn't like him as Pat Riley in Winning Time? But if you tell me Adrian Brody's going to have he's going to have more Best Actor Oscar wins.
Pat Riley probably didn't like it.
He's going to have more Best Actor Oscar wins than Robert De Niro. De Niro won 1 for Raging Bull. Adrian was going to have 2. Anyways.
So this is kind of like you rooting against Kyrie Irving's championship ring.
This is what I'm saying. When people didn't want to vote for Jokic a 3rd time, they gave it to Embiid to go, wow, is he really a 3-time winner? I'm like, yeah. I mean, sometimes this is how bias comes into it. Back to the movie. Capitalism, rise and fall. Love Guy Pearce. I loved Corbet's direction, the cinematography. How about that score? Daniel Bloomberg's score is haunting and unbelievable. And again, back to Pearce. I've always loved him since Memento, since LA Confidential. He's got a little John Huston thing going with the voice, got the Clark Gable mustache. He's like one of these characters from the 40s and 50s. I thought he was fabulous, and I thought the movie was great. I've heard some people say...
Could you come this weekend?
Yeah. What did you think? I don't want to give away any story, because there's a particularly strong...
Well, at this point, like, spoiler alert.
Okay,
We're going to talk a little bit about it.
Guy Pearce, to get an Oscar nomination, to rape another man. He sexually assaults Adrian Brody in a tunnel. I don't think you saw that coming, Russillo. What was your reaction to it? You're a tramp. I'm going to teach you a lesson.
I was confused at first because it's happening in front of you, but it's kind of vague. And then you go, wait, this is taking a turn.
Metaphor for how people rape the artists. I got it. I'm not sure if I needed to see it. This is the most notable male-on-male rape in a major motion picture since Pulp Fiction.
Right.
But as you said, in Pulp Fiction, it's very overt. It's like there's no subtlety to this.
Deliverance, it's even more overt.
Deliverance, unbelievable. Squeal like a pig. This is a tunnel. It's dimly lit. You go, what's happening right now? And then there's no aftermath. It just cuts to the next scene. Like in the mountains. You're like, did it just like?
I think they did that so that when the wife confronts Guy Pearce, there's a bit of shock value in the delivery of that kind of.
Yes.
I can't even say the final scene, the penultimate thing.
Penultimate scene. I'm here to charge a rape.
Yeah. I thought it was a bit more of a metaphor. I understand what you're saying, like, of the artist. I thought it had to do more with, like, ultimately Adrian Brody's character. They were always going to be second-class citizens. They were always going to be taken advantage of the same way his art was taken advantage of. I thought it was shot brilliantly. I thought the score was great. I think the location and the build to this monument that Toth is building, all of that stuff was really cool. I don't know that I cared about the characters enough at the end to feel something that would match how dramatic all of it was at the end.
It's an excellent point. It's not a 4-star, 4 Maple Leaf movie. It's a 3.5. What is the point of the last 15 minutes? After the wife charges him, I like that scene. But I don't understand. What am I supposed to feel after the last 10 minutes? Like, he had all this architecture, he overcame adversity. Like, what? I was a hollow feeling I had at the end.
Yeah, and I guess I felt guilty. And maybe, again, it was expectations of people talking about, like, this is one of the greatest films they'd ever seen. I didn't know if they were tricked by the overture, perhaps.
Correct.
Where
I
it
think
was
that's
like
an outrageous statement.
the intermission of, like, hey, we get a little Gone with the Wind action here, you know?
Yeah, it's a little portentous having an intermission, but go ahead.
It is a really good movie, but there was just, at least for me, personally, my experience at the end of it, I don't know that I cared enough about any one person to feel something the way that I think it was intended.
No, I think it's a fair point, and not quite Sofia Coppola. But if there has to be a weakness in the film, I know Felicity Jones got an Oscar nomination. I thought she was miscast. Kind of an odd role and an odd performance.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of a tough spot all along. I love the beginning. I love the guys coming over on the boat. I think it was really cool how they kind of planted the seed that, like, this guy's not afraid to party. Like, right into it.
By the way, there's having sex with some hookers.
Yeah, who's then, like, it's almost like they have to address Adrian Brody's nose. She's like, you have an ugly face. He's like, yeah, all right. You know, what are we going to do while we're here? Okay, next film.
Honora, of all the Oscar contenders, that's the one I'm rooting for. Sean Baker's a great director. He makes movies about marginalized communities. The Florida Project he made back when we were together at ESPN 2017. I interviewed Willem Dafoe in Cinephile. I love Willem Dafoe. Who doesn't? And I thought the movie was great because, and you haven't finished it. You watched half of it. I'm going to guess it's the first half, not the second half. But while it's overt, while it's overt sexually, and by the way, if it wins Best Picture, and it won the PGA, the Producers Guild Award, so I believe it will win. And Sean won the Directors Guild Award, DGA, so I think he's the favorite. Him and Corbett are basically a toss-up. Corbett won the Best Director Golden Globe. But it's a movie about a sex worker who falls in love with son of a Russian oligarch, and it's kind of this Pretty Woman vibe. Like, oh my God, she did it. She's a stripper, but she married a guy, and she's going to be rich and loaded and flee this life. And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. The great Karen Kagulian, who's playing a guy who's baptizing a child, that gets the call, like, wait, what? Shows up with these Russian hoodlums, Armenian, one of them is Armenian. And you go, where is this story going right now? And also becomes farcical and silly and a comedy, and it's kind of all over the place. But I loved its unpredictability. I love the performances from Mikey Madison. And again, you haven't finished it yet, but I really thought Honora was something special.
Mikey Madison's portrayal of a stripper for that opening montage is one of the most realistic and believable performances by any actor I've seen in a really long time. Like, I'm watching that going, she has this like, look, so there's just so many great people out there performing these roles, but like, is it believable? And maybe it's because the audience isn't as familiar with her that makes that work. Like some of those battles that you'll have in casting where it's like, okay, I always kind of talk about like movies where people will say, what's the first thing when you tell somebody they should see a movie? It's like, well, they'll say, who's in it? And that's why casting is as powerful as it is. But a lot of writers and directors can sometimes be like, I don't want somebody that's almost like too distracting from my words and the story that I'm trying to tell. So I feel like Sean Baker like nails that combination of the casting because she is so good at she does a really good job of desensitizing what her day at the job is, despite what she's doing, giving lap dances and basically trying to get guys to hand over their money. And from that point on, you're all in. You are 100% in. And even though it gets like crazy in the middle of it, I thought she was terrific.
I'm so glad that you agree because it's an authentic performance. I guess headquarters is actually a gentleman's club, allegedly in Manhattan. I wouldn't know this, but she went there, learned all the training. Because you're right, that whole idea of a stripper is like you're trying to extract money from people through whatever means possible, being friendly, flirtatious, etc. She got the Brooklyn accent down, and it's an interesting race. Her and Demi Moore for Best Actress, and I really want you to watch The Substance. I'm disappointed you haven't seen it yet because it is truly love it or hate it. I think you might tell me, Virk, I thought it was awesome. Or like, you're out of your mind. How the hell that movie get nominated for Best Picture? But I'll say this. Mikey Madison gives the better performance. If Demi Moore wins, you and I both know it's a Lifetime Achievement Award. Doesn't mean she's not a great actress. Doesn't mean she's not really good in The Substance. But Mikey Madison should win.
Okay, so this is something we were talking about before you came on. And I don't know when it happened, but whatever was nominated for Best Picture, like, whenever I would see the list, I go, okay, I've seen every single one of these movies. Maybe there'd be the random one that was out there, and then maybe I'd feel like I had to go ahead and check it out.
Yeah,
I don't know when the time. Maybe I just go back through each year's nominations and find like, oh, that's when you started falling off, and that very well could be a me thing. So I'm not talking about it like as an industry thing, but I guess I feel, and I wonder how many people agree with me, when I look at the collection of pictures nominated for Best Picture, like what is that? I didn't see that at all. Like, and I'll definitely never see that. Is that fair, or is that just me being detached from it?
Completely valid. It is not a you thing. When you and I were watching movies in the 90s, which to me was the last great golden era, when Titanic was nominated, 50 million people watched the Oscars. Like, that's, what is it now? I guess by those terms, 100 million watched the Super Bowl, so it was half of that audience, but still, it was a massive number. Now, we still get 125 million watching my Eagles win. You're going to get maybe 20 million watching the Oscars, like a 6-to-1 ratio. And I love Conan O'Brien. I think he's going to be hilarious, but he doesn't fit that Academy view, right? Zany, quirky. He's more like a Letterman, who, again, I think history views him favorably. I actually thought he was pretty good as the Oscars host. Most people think he bombed. Dave himself criticized and thought he was sucked. But the point is, in the past, there was only 5 nominees for Best Picture. And you and I, if you'd seen 4 of the 5, let me just watch the 5, and then I'm a completist. Then they expanded to 10. Because, of course, the whole Dark Knight controversy, one of Ceruti's favorites, Hans Zimmer, did the great score. Doesn't get nominated. Let's make it to 10. But it backfired. They said, oh, this will include more of these big budget movies. Well, yeah, you'll get Dune 2 in there, but you'll also get, this Brazilian movie, which no one's even heard. Like, wait, what is this? I'm Still Here? Like, oh, it stars Fernando Torres, who's this Brazilian actress, and then she wins the Best Actress Golden Globe. Like, the average audience is not going, oh, yeah, great. So by expanding from 5 to 10, they thought they were being more inclusive. They've actually become more elitist and nominated more movies that, again, the average fan does not watch. And I think, honestly, Ryan, it depends on the year. Last year, I think, was a genuinely great year for movies. You and I both loved and raved about Killers of the Flower Moon. David Gran is a fan of your podcast. He came on Cinephile. He's awesome. I think Oppenheimer's a great movie. I think Barbie, I don't think it's a great movie, but it certainly was a great conversation talking point. It made $1 billion. People loved it or hated it, or certainly was polarizing enough to watch people watch it. Again, this year, I really liked Denora and The Brutalist. But 10 years from now, no one's going to be talking about a lot of these other films. No one's going to talk about Emilia Perez. Like, if that movie wins Best Picture, you're never going to watch that movie. I'm like, what is it about? And again, I give it credit for originality. It is about a Mexican drug lord who undergoes a sex change and then wants to see her children and she's married to Selena Gomez, and it's played by the first ever nominated trans actress. And by the way, it's directed by a Frenchman, and it's a musical. So if you want something original, different, yeah. Imagine that pitch. If you want something different, yeah. But the average fan is not going to go, that I got to see. Or do you go populist? Let's just give it to Wicked. Well, no, Wicked's not the best picture of the year. I thought it was pretty overrated, so I don't want to give it to Wicked. So you're really kind of stuck as whereas the Oscars are supposed to do. You never go most popular movie, but is it truly the best movie? What I'm curious is I want you to go right now. You got your computer in front of you. Go through the recent Best Picture winners. When did it start to tail off? Because I have an assumption it's going to be around 2017. Because 2017 to me was still a great movie. I know you and I both love Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I love The Shape of Water. I know Mike Golick did not. He was very offended by my loving it. But I think it was the last 7 years. It was pre-COVID that I believe you started to dip, as did most people. If you go outside, you and Ceruti and Mike Wargon and ask people, hey, do you know the Oscars are this Sunday? Only 3 of 10 people will know that. Whereas 10 years ago, most people knew the Oscars were coming up.
Okay, this is a good exercise because I do have it in front of me right now. Although I still can't believe Picnic didn't win in 55. I thought 12 Billboards was a little slow.
3 Billboards, okay. But you love rock.
3 Billboards. 12 Years a Slave won in 2013. Not the same topic. No. I love Birdman. I love that it was made. Yes.
Remember that?
I love Spotlight. That year was loaded.
Spotlight was great. Remember, you one time on the air, you started doing like a Ruffalo impression. I don't know if people had seen Spotlight enough, but I thought it's hilarious.
No, but you mean he has like
the room in his mouth, and you start doing the Ruffalo. Like, I don't know if anyone's getting this, but I'm crying.
I can't do it. I was just thinking about if I could try to do it again because Ruffalo's incredible in it because he just plays this sort of like unassuming guy who's actually incredibly annoying. Well, I'd have to be in character. I can't do it. I haven't seen the movie in a long time.
But you can speak to this line specifically, which a friend of mine once said to me, he goes, that nails Boston. Remember he's talking to Stanley Tucci, and Tucci goes, what are you, Italian? And Ruffalo says, no, I'm Portuguese. And Tucci goes, I'm Armenian. They don't want us here. Speaking to the parochial nature of Boston.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Boston gets a bad rap on a lot of that stuff. I've been to a lot of cities. Okay. No, look, I've been to a lot of cities now. You know, I've been around.
By the way, love your appearance in Philadelphia. The Moses Malone jersey. Fantastic.
Oh, thank you. All right. Yeah. Spotlight, Big Short, Mad Max, The Martian, yes. Revenant, Room, Bridge of Spies. What a loaded year 15
what year was. That for perspective? 2000.
That's like the LeBron draft. Okay. Let me see. That's 2015. So then Moonlight won in 16. That was your Manchester by the Sea should have won.
Dude, I love that. Kenny Loggins, great script. Affleck wins the Oscar. The next year was the 3 Billboards and Shape of Water. And after
this might have been it.
That
2017 might have been it.
That's the line of demarcation. 2019.
Larry Bird was nominated.
Well, you and I love The Irishman 2019.
Actually, excuse me, Lady Bird. I liked Lady Bird better than a lot of those movies. Mm-hmm. Dunkirk. I mean, Nolan. I'm just going to be way too biased. I love The Phantom Thread.
Yes. I love it.
I did. And then 2018. Yeah, I think it started happening around 17 for me.
Correct. So the movies themselves just weren't as strong. You're like, okay, I got other things.
Parasite's incredible though.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I think it was still strong in 2019, right around COVID. That's because 2019 you get Parasite, Irishman. Awesome.
Yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood smokes The Irishman, no offense.
But you still like The Irishman. Like, let's be honest.
It's okay.
No, you liked it more than that. People were like, oh, it's too long to make up. It's pretty good. You liked it.
Yeah, I think it's right around 17. That's kind of when but it also could be when I moved to California. I just had more shit going on.
But my point is that you didn't say when Everything Everywhere All at Once won Best Picture, you did not pump your fist with glee. You just go, looks like a weird movie. I'll get around to it.
I watched it.
Yeah, what do you think of it? Strange?
It was strange, yeah. But I mean, A24 is doing some amazing stuff.
Exactly. This is going to be good.
Man, as long as it wasn't another one of those Baz Luhrmann fever dreams.
Great Gatsby, we're a big fan of.
No, because it was a different movie. I've told this story before. I woke up after like a 3-day run in Vegas, and then it was like the Sunday night back in my apartment in Boston, and I left the TV on when I fell asleep, and I woke up to a Baz Luhrmann movie, and I thought I was hallucinating, dying. And it was like all of these sensations at the same time. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And what is going on? I'm like, is this a dream? Is there someone in my room? I was like scared, and it was him. So it's personal.
His movies can do that. Although I do like Moulin Rouge perhaps more than the average.
It was Moulin Rouge, by the way, that I woke up to.
It's probably Jim Broadbent just screaming in your face.
It was.
And you're like, what the fuck is going on?
That's exactly what it was. I'm like, what? I'm like, this can't be a show, is it? Like, I'm like, turn off the TV, grab an ice water, buddy, reset.
One more Baz Luhrmann thought for you. Elvis was a hero to most. Austin Butler, fantastic in the movie, but Tom Hanks, for a great, legitimately great actor, by all accounts, a wonderful guy, one of the worst performances of a major motion picture in the last 5 years. Tom Hanks as the Colonel in Baz Luhrmann's Elvis is just dreadful.
Yeah. Tom is at the list of accomplishments, kind of like Malkovich, where you just can't say anything. You can't say anything to Tom Hanks about his accent.
Right. Like, and this goes back to your point about the casting, right? Somebody said to Baz Luhrmann, hey, I need $60 million to make Elvis. And this guy, Austin Butler's going to be in it. Who? Well, they're going to need a star to bankroll it. Don't worry, I'll get Elvis. Elvis will play the Colonel. Great. He'll be fat and like disgusting and like, League of Their Own out. Tom Hanks. And then the accent. What do you think, guys? It works well, Tom. Go for it. And it's just an odd, distracting performance the entire movie.
Yeah, you're at a certain, I don't know how it works in Hollywood, but once you're at a certain level of accomplishment, no one can ever say like, hey, what are you doing with that accent?
One more story on casting. You're going to love this. I know you haven't seen A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan biopic. I thought it was all right, a little overrated. It's definitely the Mad Dog Russos who are pushing that vote. Oh, the baby boomers. Oh, how great's Dylan. It was kind of just like Timothée Chalamet sings Dylan, which he does like a well-accomplished, like a concert film. But this James Mangold story you're going to love. Mangold is, of course, the director of A Complete Unknown. It's his first ever Best Director nomination. He made a film you and I both love, Copland. He's telling the story of how Stallone was cast. And I just always assumed he wrote it for Stallone. He was like, oh, this would be a great comeback vehicle. But no, he'd written the movie. And then the studio was like, hey, Stallone wants to do it. He goes like, absolutely not. That guy's terrible. And they go, great. You can tell that to his face. You're having dinner with him tomorrow. And he said to Sly's face, aside from the first few movies, don't care for your career. Don't think you're right for the role. If you do, you got to put on a ton of weight. Like I've got De Niro, I got Keitel. Like you better bring it. And Sly's like, okay, mumbling away. And Mangold read the riot act to him. And I guess Stallone wanted the role so bad he was able to play ball. But it was stunning to me. I had another example of someone thinking, oh, yeah, that comeback vehicle. Everyone's all in. No. Nobody was all in except for Sly Stallone. And I thought he acquitted himself actually pretty well in the movie.
I love that. Stallone being like the underdog again, all over, 25 years later. I love Copland. Copland is a good rewatchable.
Oh, man. What is penalized cash? You got Robert Patrick, Ray Liotta, Peter Berg, De Niro, Keitel. Like there's some heavy hitters in that movie. Michael Rappaport?
Yeah, my favorite.
Big Knicks guy.
Yeah, no. Help promote his movie, then he starts motherfucking me. Cool, man.
Oh, jeez.
Let's see here. Let's end on this.
Yeah.
Speaking of hostilities, where are we at with you and your country? I'm worried a little bit. I've had my issues at times. Maybe it's because I got lost in Parma Court one night, but I didn't love some of the superiority stuff you guys would throw at us. Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, I think a lot of you guys move here though, to be honest with you, but I don't know what those numbers are. Maybe the total number is misleading, like sometimes share versus actual Nielsen rating, or what does a Nielsen rating even mean anymore? All right. So between the tariffs and the four nations, I feel like you guys needed it more than we did. And I'm happy for you. And I'm happy for McJesus.
Yeah. But McDavid's great. This goes back to, I don't know, this is maybe a year ago on the podcast. You guys were discussing immigration at some point. And someone said, you get Adnan on.
It's one of our favorite topics.
Right. And Ceruti goes, what do you mean? He goes, we got to get, and Ceruti's like, well, I mean, he's Canadian. He's like, well, he is technically an immigrant. Ceruti's like, I don't really view Canadians as
He's almost deported before Trump.
Exactly. Your favorite part of that story, Mark Gross, the executive, told me, your wife and kids can stay, but you have to leave immediately. But after the show, finish baseball tonight, and then at 1 a.m., get in your car and leave. Because he thought we all had to leave. I go, no, my wife's American. My kids are American. Oh, in that case, just you. Get your ass home. The green card's been revoked by a O1 visa. We definitely needed it more than you guys. I said,
but we need. Can you get to twins wraps? I just stuttered like a crazy person.
Let us know what happened with Joe Mauer and Justin Morneau. Then you can go back to your country and we'll let you know. We definitely needed it more than you guys. You kidding? Trump's baiting us and taunting us, 51st state, and mocking Trudeau, Governor Trudeau. I'm like, oh my God. And then the USA plays a great game in Montreal, wins it 4-1. Binnington, bad goal in that second goal. The Kachucks are fighting. Okay, Canadians fight. Come on, Americans don't fight. What is going on here? We absolutely needed that win. And I was thrilled for Connor McDavid, who was rather quiet in that game until that moment. Austin Matthews should have had him covered, but McDavid gets just enough space to shoot it. Binnington was great in overtime. Of course, that glove save and the blocker save of Matthews will live on forever. But there's nothing more pressurized, Ryan, than a Canadian living in America. Because I know if Canada loses this game, the heat that I'm going to face, the taunting is going to be out of this world. So thank God we won. We absolutely need it more than you guys. And hopefully there'll be a rematch of the Olympics. But you're right. The geopolitics of this definitely made things a little more heated. Booing of anthems. Like, whoever thought that would happen? And you've been a guy who's always been rather pro-Canadian. And I'll say this for Americans. Like, anytime I tell someone I'm a Canadian, they go, oh, that's so sweet. Like, I've been to Mont Tremblant. Like, there's always some relation that an American will make. Like, oh, I knew a Canadian in college. Van Pelt will say that. Oh, I knew a guy who was a big Leafs fan. Walt Podubny, et cetera. Whereas right now in Canada, if you go, oh, my friend's American, they go, ugh. Like, they just start baring their fangs at you. Go, hey, not all Americans are Donald Trump. Not all Americans hate Canada, et cetera. So
not yet.
No, you're right. But I'm grateful to be here. 15 years I've now lived in this great country, but I still always rep Canada. Thank God we won. It was a hell of a game. Sean McDonough.
Unless it's the Flyers.
Unless it's the Flyers. Canadian players. Yeah. How about Sean
Trudeau
McDonough?
needed this. Trudeau needed this.
I just have to mention McDonough. Good luck charm. CBS called the World Series 1993. Blue Jays went back to back. Calls the Four Nations. Canada wins. McDonough, Canada, good luck charm. Go ahead.
Okay. So if you look at Trudeau's approval, disapprove numbers.
Oh, he's in trouble. This is
but December 24, it was at 74% disapprove. Okay. You want to update that post the Four Nations? We're at 58%. Approval rating from 22 to 34. 34 is 34 is still on the lower end for where he's been at since what? 2014.
Prime Minister for like 9 years. I mean, if you go back.
Yeah, even longer. Look,
at his age, people loved him.
I think people in Canada need this. And between just some of the Trump stuff, like that's the Four Nations and Trump's the best thing that's ever happened to Trudeau because it has nothing to do with whether or not anyone likes him.
Yes.
It's just like, hey, we beat those guys. Thank God.
Yes.
And it's been a bit of a deflection towards who are you really mad at because it's gotten a little hostile. I've been along those borders. I know them well.
Think how many times at UVM you went and visited Quebec. You were basically an honorary Canadian the amount of times you went.
We used to have property on the border of Canada in Holland, Vermont, which isn't even a town, I don't think. It sort of is, but it isn't, but it's part of something else. So the border of the town of the property that, again, this is like 40 years ago, but I still remember it, was Canada. So if you jumped over the fence, who knows what was going to happen to you? I know where that, but that's why I don't want anything to get too hostile because like I know the weak points.
Yeah.
I know where that access is. I know that station has been manned in 38 years.
But I love the fact that you would know more Canadian shows than other people because of that proximity to Canada. Like you were dropping like red green references to me. Or
never left. I would watch in amazement to go. And I'm not even talking about him specifically, but I would watch the Canadian lineup of comedy shows and just go, what the fuck? But then SCTV was terrific.
Yes.
Right. So,
at your point, but Canadians always leaving. When I met Norm Macdonald years ago to ESPN, and Norm was originally, I think, born in Quebec City. His brother still works for CBC in Ottawa. And he goes, oh, I can't do Norm. He's like, I heard you're Canadian. I'm like, yeah, it's so great, man. He was all on. He's like, what's so great about it? And I go, what? I go, Canada? He's like, we all leave. Like, what's so great about it? To the Norm's point, a proud Canadian is one who leaves and then says, oh, Canada's the best. Yeah, but you left. Anyway, it's still great.
It's great to see you, man. Where can we hear you?
Yeah, MLB Network, NHL Network, of course, Amazon Prime, Monday Night Hockey, every week traveling to Canada, and NHL Unscripted. Please do support NHL Unscripted. You know me. I'm still working on the movies. We're still talking cinephile within the framework of this podcast. And by the way, this Amazon Prime book has been so much fun. I know you're close to Carissa Thompson. We're now colleagues here at Amazon. So I hope I see Carissa at some Amazon meetup. I'm like the Carissa Thompson of Canada, except shorter, fatter, darker, and a man.
Other than that, thank you for leaving your Adnan rolling credits until the end. Because if you had started the pod like you did last time with 7-8 minutes straight of shout outs, we would have cut it out probably. You're the best, buddy. Good seeing you.
Man. Great seeing you too. You're the man.
You want details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
The email address, as always, lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. We've got Ceruti, Kyle, Wargon on call. What's good, everybody? Nice Johnny's win. You wonder emotionally, Kyle, post another UConn victory if there'd be a little bit of a letdown against Butler, but
figured they'd have to drop one, but just a couple of Big East champs hanging out in a Zoom call. Feels pretty good.
Feels real good. Okay, moving on. Let's see here. We had a follow-up or two that I liked. We had a lot of lab people checking in.
Dude.
What? Ceruti?
It's a brutal scene on my elbow today. Just
how is it? Can we see it?
Doesn't hurt anymore, but it just looks terrible. It looks awful. Like it's like a good, 1.5 inch diameter, nasty purple, black and blue situation.
Okay. Well, we have a doctor checking in. We had a few doctors checking in. I like this one. Wargon, be ready to go just in case. We need some sound effect, but I don't have any buttons to push. Sports medicine physician here, so I feel uniquely qualified to provide feedback, solicited and unsolicited, regarding the life advice for the pod from February 25th. Ceruti, yes, some lab techs just suck at their job. The only way they get fired or reassigned is if enough people complain about terrible lab draws like what you had. It's what we call blowing a vein. In short, she went through your vein, not into it. If they emailed you asking to fill out patient surveys, I would definitely bring that experience up. You're not going to do that, though. I don't think that's Ceruti's deal.
There's a difference between like bad food and blowing a vein. It just sounds way worse than bad service at a restaurant. So I don't know. I think there's a line somewhere. I don't know where it is.
The other issue is
croutons are stale.
Did I tell you guys this? I get a call, the next day or whatever, and my doctor's just like, yeah, all looks good, cholesterol is good, all these numbers. He's like, there's like a little liver thing that's a little bit weird. We want you to just redo it. We don't think it's anything, but we want you to redo it. So I have to go back in a month.
Can I go to an urgent care or something?
Worst case scenario. But maybe, hopefully I still have the bruise. I could be like, I can just take my arm out and be like, this is what happened last time I was here.
What do you do if you walk in there and it's the same person drawing the blood?
You just pass out, Wargon style.
Yeah.
I kind of want it to be, and I want my arm to look like it's like been mangled, because I want her to be like, ask me what happened. Like, well, funny story.
You should punch your arm again the night before, maybe 2 days before. Okay, moving on. Number 2, Oregon. I'm sure I'm fucking up that spelling. Sorry, dude. Please don't get cortisone shots in your legs for shin splints if you decide to run full half marathons again. It calms the pain down, but weakens your bone. Kevin Ware was getting cortisone shots for shin splints before disaster struck for him. Maybe a good thing your illness slowed you down.
Oh, wow. I do whatever the doctor tells me. That's all I got on that.
Doctors disagree, believe it or not.
Yeah. According to my fiance, that doctor was a hack. So maybe this guy's right.
Like
2 against 1.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3, calling about lab results. First off, usually the only time we have to call lab results, the only time we have to call about lab results is at the end of the day when we're done seeing patients. So if you don't pick up, it'll inevitably get pushed to the next business day, as is the last thing we do before leaving the office. I don't know. Could you change that? Could that be an industry change?
Well, it was the time thing, but you're also like, could you just choose your words a little more carefully? Maybe give us a lean, like without spilling the beans on exactly what's in the results,
By the way, the second time it happened to me, it was very early, but I was on a plane. So anyway, we also can't say, hey, Ryan, this is Dr. So-and-so calling about your lab results, and just leave a message with the results unless you give us permission to do so. Some offices will have you fill out forms or document this. This is the case because enough patients will accidentally mistype their phone number by a digit, and then you're sharing confidential patient info with somebody who isn't the patient. A big violation. Most people also don't have...
I understand that, but like that doesn't mean that you can just like be purposely really vague and ominous about what the results are. Like you can kind of give a lean, be like, "Hey, got your results. Everything mostly looks fine.
Nothing alarming."
Yeah,
just that. Nothing
like
alarming. It sounds good, right?
Totally.
Also, I think know your audience. You know, like, will this freak this dude out?
Right.
If I say it this way, but then again, it's not even an age thing, so.
Who doesn't get freaked out with medical advice? Yeah, like if anybody says something to you that's like slightly concerning.
There's dudes out there that don't care, right? Like, whatever. We going out tonight? Most people also don't have personalized voicemail greetings, so you can't be confident you're leaving a message with the right person. This is why most doctors, when calling you, will have you verify your date of birth before sharing any info. I handle this by just being as vague as possible. See, maybe it's back to the vague thing.
I don't know, man. Don't love
Hey,
that.
just... well, he gives an example. Hey, just calling about your labs you had drawn this week. Everything looks great. See, if you'd said everything looks great.
That's the golden ticket right there.
If there's something concerning, I'll just recommend they call back the next day with times that work to talk and build that call into my schedule. Last point, most assistants are not allowed to give interpretations of lab results because they don't know what they mean or their significance. So out of an abundance of caution, most offices won't let them offer interpretations as they're wrong often enough to create massive headaches. Yeah, I understand that.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, but again, sometimes their tone, you interpret their tone as being negative. This is all. I'm not saying this emailer isn't correct in all of these points, but that's not what's happening here.
This
like
doctor
calling at 4:30 on a Friday would say, "Hey, your lab results came back. Like, give us a call ASAP." That's insane. That's insane behavior. That's a protocol thing. Call Monday morning then if it's not a big deal.
Well, if he said, but if he's put that little, all looks good, just call back at your earliest convenience. Yes. That's fine, right? Okay, that's still kind of as soon as possible. But he threw in the don't worry, you can sleep tonight. Fine.
I think the 4 p.m. Friday call voicemail, hey, you need to call us, is a bad move.
Yep.
Yeah. Personal experience. All right, we'll leave it at that.
Seems reasonable.
How are those shin splints, Wargon? Dudes are banged up right now. We're blowing veins.
Playing hurt.
You're good?
Yeah, pretty much
Never
gone.
question the toughness of this podcast.
I got to get my tumor re-imaged to make sure it's not growing. Other than that, we're good.
What?
What the fuck?
Yeah. I do know this story.
You know this?
Yeah.
What's wrong, dude?
I got like a little thing in there,
I feel like that's...
Is it bad to ask where?
Speaking of purposely vague.
In where? Yeah. Is it bad to ask in where?
Is that how they said it to you?
They don't know if it's shin splints or that causing the problem.
Oh, it's in there.
Oh,
okay.
It's in my leg.
Got it.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's malignant. Is that the phrase I'm looking for?
It's the not bad one.
Yeah, but they can't remove it. You told me this like a month or
Good Hodgkins. Good Hodgkins.
They just got to make sure it's not growing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Wargon has the biggest smile on his face ever, and I can't stop laughing while he's also talking about a tumor. So I don't know what to do right now. But I hate to admit, I think I'm aligned with Kyle in that as soon as we heard it was a shin tumor, Kyle and I looked at each other like, oh, all right. So yeah, sorry, man.
I thought we talked about this when we were having those cores, man. We each had one. Maybe you guys forgot.
That was a lot for me.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Jeez, now we feel bad.
Even worse if it was we already knew. Should we read an email? What do you think? God damn.
I'm so excited about the golf clubs. Maybe that.
There you go.
It could have been the golf club transfer. And we just kind of were like, what did Wargon say? I don't know.
It was all timing for me.
No, it's like not,
I was just
it's
like,
not
is it time
serious
yet?
at all.
Yeah. All right. Good.
All right. Okay. All right. A little bit more feedback. How about we go with it? Love the pod. Former baseball athlete. Link below. Okay.
Link.
Body type. Currently a young big baby Davis with a pickup rebound game to rival Westbrook triple-double season. I work in tech media platforms, and please advise is 100% a fuck you. I don't know anyone who sent that without angrily typing their keyboard and sighing. God. So he offers up some substitutes.
Good.
Would love your thoughts.
That's good.
All right. Do you have any builds, edits, changes, etc.? Okay. But again, she probably can't say that every time. So I think one works. Need your 2 cents before we move forward.
No.
That's such a no.
No. I can't even tell you why it's a no, but it's just a no across the board.
Ceruti?
I don't like 2 cents. I don't like 2 cents. You know what I was thinking? This has been done in ringer circles, and actually it does work. If you put in the title, like reply needed, like in all caps or something, because again, you get a billion emails. Sometimes you read them, you don't necessarily reply. If I know that I need a reply, that to me is not a dick move.
Yeah, that's good. It's a little alarming going across the top banner when I see
notice
it, but it's
guess
good.
What I do? I reply.
Gets the job done.
Keep me posted on feedback.
It just feels like office lingo that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Circle back.
Ceruti next week. Destroyed that one. Hope the new year is treating you well.
Put a pin in it is fuck off, right? That's exactly what that is. That's like, hey, thanks for asking, but no.
Probably not necessary, yeah.
I would love your thoughts. You got to remember, it needs to play. It needs to play multiple times. The 2 cents thing, if you ended every email with, I need your 2 cents.
Yeah, you have a new nickname.
Right.
People
we can't have
2
that.
cents.
We can't have that too, like our female submission here. So I like the first one.
Yeah.
I like this guy had a lot of ideas. He was just throwing a lot of stuff out there, and I think the first one works. Okay. We have another one here because trust me, I think we have another 15 minutes. We'll be all right. Josh Allen's or whiners. Try being tall. 6'7", 220. No gym stats, but have gotten into distance running. Ran first marathon last fall. Training for the next one early this summer. Basketball comp is poor man's Aaron Gordon. Jumper was broken, but I caught a few bodies in my day. Although Aaron Gordon's shooting numbers have been terrific this month, but I guess the emailer's probably like, I wonder if Russillo's going to throw me Aaron Gordon's February splits.
Ironically, he might be the best shooter on the Orlando Magic, but story for another day.
Yeah. Boy, can that team not shoot.
I don't even want to talk about it.
You guys suck at shooting.
Yep.
I think I looked at it. Let me double check this right now. Sorry, I have to do it.
Yeah, it's bad. Now I'm mad at myself, honestly.
Do you know,
Try to make a joke.
Know what they're shooting as a team from three right now?
Man. High 20s.
Yeah, it's 30.4.
Johnny's numbers right there.
You should get Rick. They played the Hawks the other night, and the Hawks, I think every single person on the roster was a better 3-point shooter than anyone the Magic had.
Like, I'm going to go back through it.
Because I don't know the last NBA comp.
I don't know the last time a team shot 30% from three on a season. Usually it's like 32 is last. And I mean, I'm scrolling through it right now as we're like talking. I'm already 10 years back, and I haven't found anybody with a number that bad. When they suck on offense, the Orlando Magic are unwatchable.
Yep. Number 2 on defense, though. So.
Yep. Very good. I was doing some of my all offense. I think it's number 2 on defense, number 28 on offense. I don't know that there's another team has that wide of a gap between those two categories.
But it's been like that. This is nothing. I mean, it's worse this year, but it's
good that KCP though was brought in to provide some spacing. So
$30 million a year. Let's go.
Okay.
Next week. We'll cover this next week in our East 15 and 15.
Yeah, right. We'll get to that. I'm using some of my East stuff already. I'm going to stop. Okay, so back to our tall guy who's like, what happened to my email? The recent writers complaining about being named Josh Allen can suck it. People at least have to find out their name before they can make the bad jokes. And once Josh Allen retires, although, dude, that's not going to be for a long time, and he's awesome, the comments will be fewer and fewer. I mean, you're telling the Josh Allens out there, just give it 12 to 15 years. Don't worry about it. Try being tall. Everyone has a comment or joke and don't need my name to make it. You're tall. Oh, really? You should play basketball. I used to. Do you hit your head on the door frames? Not usually. The standard door frame is 6'8", so I just slide through. I love that we now know that the standard door frame height size is 6'8". That's if we do nothing today, we've done that. I'm only 6'7". I sympathize with others that are taller as it only gets worse. No need for advice except to advise Josh Allen to suck it up. He's not wrong about any of this stuff. People lose their fucking minds at I would say like 6'7" and higher, 6'8" and higher is when people start to they think that you're solely there for their amusement. And you're right in a way. You don't even need the name to start it. Again, good friend Chenoweth, a monster, a beast. I've seen it happen all the time. People will come up to him like he's not even a real person and like grab the kids. Hey, come look at this mutant, Toby. You know,
but they do it in an impressive kind of way. You know what I mean? You could, if it comes, like you're basically a mythical creature. You could make up any story about yourself. Not that not that that's what's important to lie about your past and anything like that. But it's coming from like an impressive thing. They're like, holy shit, dude. I mean, that's better than being like, wow, your name's Josh Allen. Weird. I don't know. I think it's cooler outside of like planes and,
would you want to be 7'1"?
Dorm room beds.
Kyle?
7'1" is way different than 6'7" though.
Okay, but what about 7'1"?
No.
Would you be?
No, there's
right
a
now?
limit for everything. But I'm just saying 6'7", a lot of guys are like, that's fucking cool. I think it's like, it's coming from a place of wow and not a place of like weird. So I don't know.
Where's the line though? This is a whole different conversation, but like, would you rather be 7 feet tall or 5'8"?
7. I mean, don't even bother at. I mean, come on.
7 feet is so ridiculous.
7 feet's ridiculous.
Your life
man.
is so inconvenient. And if
and
you're
wait,
not
do
an
I
NBA
have my
player,
basketball skills? Because then people they're like, what a fucking waste. They like hate.
yeah,
you.
but you're 7 feet tall. So that's the thing. Yeah, but you're not in the NBA. It's
Ryan,
You
would
might still be in the
absolutely choose
NBA
that.
even with your basketball skills.
yeah. What is it?
Certainly
What
would've
was
got
it
a
like?
better
20%
degree,
of people 7 feet or taller in the world were at
I don't
least
think
at one
that's
point
true.
playing in the NBA.
Is that true?
I don't think that's true.
That could be a stat I made up.
I think it's
thought
closer
I
to
saw
like
that somewhere.
3%.
Wait, 20% of earthly 7-footers have had a jersey. It's been on a two-way at least. Come on, that seems even high.
China's first thing on Reddit 9 years ago, busting the myth that 70% of American 7-footers play in the NBA. Yeah, so that's probably not true. Sounded like a cool fact though.
How about this? Dream height. Let's go around the horn. Wargon, you're first.
6'4"?
I like it.
6'5". I'm 6'2" or 6'3", debatable. I'd say 6'5".
So you're close.
Just
You're close.
Yeah. Man,
I'm
2 inches
Wargon,
from
how
living
tall
the
are you?
dream.
I'm like 5'6".
okay. So you're wow.
But you're
Ouch. I don't like that. Wow.
You look
No, I thought you were taller.
Thanks. Appreciate that, guys.
And I've seen you in person, so that's very strange. I didn't. Yeah, 5'6".
Is it the
seems
shin
low.
splints? No, I'm
You
just.
think they're adding some height?
I don't know if it's messing with the final number or something.
I'm 5'10". 6'4". Yeah, probably 6'4". A dream height, like what? I don't know. 6'2". I don't want to be too tall. Am I just my normal self? 6'2" is fine.
Skinny jeans are going to be tough. A lot of that Euro shit that you try to pull off. 6'6", probably couldn't do it.
Yeah, the J. Crew scene probably wouldn't be as good for me at 6'4" as it would be at 5'8", but it's all right.
Chalmers big and tall.
Hmm.
I think I go 6'6". I think 6'6" means it's not
Freaky
freakish
tall, but you're
tall,
like,
but
whoa,
you're-
that guy's tall.
Yeah, and I think you do something. I think at some point, like in another life, I would have liked to play basketball professionally in like Switzerland or something. 6'6", I probably could trick some guy into giving me a contract. Now,
Well, don't people around Manhattan Beach think you play hockey? You're an ex-hockey guy?
yeah,
pretty cool.
I had lunch the other day, and she was asking me if I missed it.
You're what, Bristol?
It's like, I haven't seen you around a lot lately with the guys, and I was like, yeah, what's up? She's like, you miss it? And I was like,
How much do you love that?
it's a nice compliment.
Yeah.
It's a nice compliment. I mean, this one place, I've tried to tell him so many different times that I didn't play hockey, I just gave up. All right. I love this last email. Building towards the end here. I I guess we never really read any life advices yet.
Yeah, this would be the first.
So let's read just an awesome one. Okay. This guy sent it in twice, which normally is a turnoff, but we love it. 35 years old, 6'3". Pretty close, guys. 220. NBA comp Tristan Thompson, a lifelong undersized center who will win every one-on-one rebound battle. Need me to do anything else? You're screwed. I played an adult softball team for the last 3 years in San Diego, but moved to Portland earlier this year. So my time with the team is done. Side note, we went to the championship 5 seasons in a row and lost all 5 times. Brutal. I got into the softball scene by meeting a guy named, well, he gives his name here.
Is it unique?
It is.
Oh.
And it's, see, let's just call him Lester.
Uncle Lester?
Yeah.
Nice.
You can't make an omelet without cracking a few Gregs. Tomlin.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. By meeting a guy named Lester, who eventually invited me to play on his organized team. Through the years, players would leave the team because Lester was rough around the edges. He and I became pretty close friends, and he actually opened up to me about his struggles with Asperger's and his inability to understand how to have interpersonal skills with most others. Everything was fine between him and I until December when he called me asking if I would be willing to put $50,000 into an E-Trade so that he could use the money to short stocks. Lester comes from a Wall Street background and told me for years about an algorithm that he invented to do quite well in shorting. Here we go. However, at this time, Lester was being sued for said algorithm and was legally prohibited from using his own money to invest, but was told by his lawyer that he could still use the algorithm to invest other people's money. Several of our softball teammates, whom I also was becoming good friends with, had been speculating for months prior to this that Lester was having money problems. I knew his proposal was insane, but I wanted to initially give him some benefit of the doubt. So I asked him for the details of his plan. His answer, if I agreed, he would be taking 50% of the profits, leaving me with the other 50%. A 50% management fee. That is high. I asked for
his trading. Do better elsewhere?
I asked for his trading history, and what he sent over was a spreadsheet of 4 successful shorts he executed, along with the profit percentage that he took home. That's it, attached. I opened the attachment. This is so
just like Excel.
Ballsy. Dude, it's a spreadsheet titled Historical Data. and it just says, like, he doesn't have any trades in it. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And then he just puts the profit off of the different symbols that he shorted. He even says he called the Silicon Valley Bank bankruptcy. 100% position, he said. Okay. And then he does a service agreement that I read through. And it's like, I don't know. I just, whatever. The guy just wrote it up on Word and was like, here's the agreement.
Seems official.
It was a service agreement that literally nobody should ever agree to attached side. It felt like he was taking advantage of our friendship, needing more time to evaluate how I felt about his actions. I told him I wasn't in a position to do this and would need to wait until the new year before I even have the funds to commit. I realized this is a mistake.
Because now it's February.
This is a little bit like I Love You, Man, right, Kyle? You like that movie?
I don't remember that movie. That was Paul Rudd and
Jason
Segel.
Yeah.
I hated that movie when it came out, and then it grew on me, and now it's I think it's one of the best comedies of that era.
Huh. Wow, I hate to one of the best.
I know. I changed my mind,
That's like McConaughey type turnaround. Good for you, man. Okay. Long story short, I never agreed to do this, and Lester kicked me off the softball team.
Honestly, that's a win for you, dude. I don't know. It seems like a good. When
teammates asked me about it, when teammates asked about me, better said, he said I wasn't on the team because he couldn't get a hold of me, and then started telling people that I asked him for a $50,000 loan for my company.
Oh,
and when he said no, I stopped talking to him coming around. I'm still close to some of our teammates and have a prideful reputation that I would like to uphold to everyone else on the team that I spent years of great quality time with, even though I've moved to Portland and will likely never see most of them again. Should I call out Lester out in front of everyone via a group text or just move on with my new life in Portland? He's full of shit and has impacted my reputation, but will addressing this really do more good than harm? Thanks. You guys are the best. Fuck him. He tried to steal your money, or he thought he was going to make you money. And then when he lost the money, he was going to say, sorry, dude, you saw the agreement. Sure. I think a lot of people would listen to this and say, who cares? You move to another city. As he states, he's likely never going to see most of these people ever again. If he is lying about you, now you could say, hey, this guy's super unhinged. Don't even get into the whole thing. That's why so many of these people get away with this stuff, because nobody ever says anything, because it's like, oh, I'm just going to move on. So my advice to you very specifically would be like, yeah, I would look forward to sending that text. Are you kidding? I wouldn't be able to sleep at night the night before to be able to go back to the softball group text and be like, hey, Lester, did you actually tell these people that I asked you for a $50,000 loan? Okay. Are you serious? Do you want to do this? Do you want me to share your spreadsheet, your manifesto?
Yeah, I think I'd pick one person, send it to the mouthpiece of the group, just like, hey, I'm not here anymore. I've just been hearing a bunch of stuff. I just want to set the record straight. And like, you don't want to put too much energy into this, like cold calling people and just be like, hey, you have time to talk about Lester?
No.
But maybe I would just tell the one guy who's like, who actually does get invited to go to drinks or whatever after you guys lose the championship again. And like, maybe that's the one who gets the information. Well, he said they're like perennial runners up for like 5 years in a row. Just wanted to show that I retained some of that information. So, I think I would just tell the one guy who you could trust would get this out to the people who need to know it.
See, the thing is, though, there's a good chance everyone on that team, or at least like 90% of the people on that team, know that Lester's full of shit and lied to you and is lying about this. And your reputation is probably fine. This is just more about you publicly shaming Lester in front of those people. I don't think there's any downside to it. I would totally get why you want to do it. I probably would do it myself, because there's just something about putting someone in their place in public, even if people already know the guy's full of shit. So I think your reputation's fine either way. Like, there's no way these guys are like, oh my God, I thought Lester was a shithead, but it actually turned out it was this guy. No, that's
You're
not
totally
what happened.
right.
That's not what happened. So this is just about whether or not you want to really be a dick. And it's not even being a dick. You want to just really, make sure you put this guy in his place. And I would fully endorse it if you wanted to do that.
Side note, Asperger's, unfortunate name for a disease or syndrome.
It's not great. Yeah.
The first time I heard it, I was like, are you kidding me? I think I Googled Asperger's.
Same. I was like, is that spelling? What's going on here?
Just ASP, if anyone's new to the word.
Well said. Okay. Thanks, everybody. That's an episode. Thanks to Wargon. Thanks to Ceruti. Thanks to Kyle. And John Frias, who is helping us put together the video side of the podcast, which is available every time you open up your Spotify app now. So you can watch the whole show, and you can watch it on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. Ryen Russillo Podcast, bring your Spotify. Must be 21 and older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.